Hi there, I'm Rex King. Welcome back to From the Archive. Herman Melville's Moby Dick is considered to be one of the best classics in American literature. It has been adapted to the silver screen many times over the years. But which version is the most definitive version? Well, if you ask most critics and most audience members, the answer to that question is the 1956 version directed by John Huston. As I said, this film was directed by John Huston and it was written by legendary writer Ray Bradbury. Yeah, I know. That is quite literally one of the best screenwriters you could get for a film like this. And basically, the film was produced by Moulin Productions, the same company who produced Houston's Moulin Rouge production, and was distributed by Warner Brothers, much to the chagrin of Jack Warner, who, well, didn't like this style of movie very much. Let's put it that way. Uh, the film ended up going over its $2 million budget, thanks to probably a lot of delays in the production. And ended up having a final budget of $4.5 million, was a tad bit over budget for what the film was trying to do. And at the box office, it grossed $5.2 million, which isn't exactly what the studio was hoping for and was considered to be underperforming. That being said, critics really enjoyed the film and felt it was a great adaptation. In fact, today, like I said, a lot of people point to this film as the definitive adaptation. That being said, has the film aged well? And is it still a definitive version of Moby Dick? And should you seek it out if you are new to the story? Well, let's talk about it. So for those of you who do not know the story of Moby Dick, it follows this guy named Ishmael. In the movie, he's played by Richard Basehart, and he pretty much is a restless drifter. He apparently likes to go on voyages, and whenever he feels restless, and this time he's deciding to go on a whaling voyage for adventure on the high seas. After meeting a cannibal harpooner, and no, the film does not portray that very well at all, he ends up signing on the Prequad, which is a boat run by the legendary Captain Ahab, who he's told was injured by a whale. In fact, he even lost his leg. For the first part of the voyage, Captain Ahab is a complete and utter mystery to the crew. That is until one day he steps out of his cabin and the entire crew gets their first look of Captain Ahab, played by Gregory Peck. And he pretty much tells them that not only are they hunting whales, but he wants them to hunt one whale in particular, the legendary Moby Dick, a whale that has killed many sailors and is the one responsible for Captain Ahab's injuries. Throughout the film, we start to realize what the main plot is, and that is basically that of man versus nature. Moby Dick represents nature and man's struggle to overcome it. Captain Ahab represents man and basically his need to be superior to nature. Not only that, but it also deals more with Captain Ahab's overwhelming obsession and the lengths he'll go to accomplish his goal, even if that means hurting his crew in the process. So the film manages to capture Melville's book really well. Yes, there are some really interesting scenes from the book missing, but I do believe all the key scenes are here. Keep in mind, Melville's book is 427 pages long and is a brick. If you've ever read it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. So in order to really adapt this story into a 2-hour film, things are going to need to be cut. And I do believe they cut the right amount of things and managed to convey the story quite well for a 2-hour film. I especially love how they captured the church scene where a preacher, played by Orson Welles in the film, is preaching about Jonah and the whale while being on basically like this bow of this ship that's built into this church, and there's a bunch of like plaques to sailors who have died. It's quite a spine-chilling scene. Now, this film wouldn't be as good if it didn't nail the characters, and I believe it nails Captain Ahab and his mates quite well. His first, second, and third mate all have their own little scenes, and we managed to understand what each of them wants out of this voyage and what each of their personalities are. They're really key as Captain Ahab continues to go down the rabbit hole of obsession, especially Starbuck, who has to basically become the voice of reason and offset Ahab's madness. And I do believe the film manages to capture these relationships quite well. That being said, it does struggle with our main character, Ishmael. Now, Ishmael has always been an audience proxy. He's there to be our eyes and ears. The problem with that is he's just not that interesting of a character, and really isn't as well as developed as he could be. He's better in the book than he is definitely in the movie, especially with the relationship he has with the cannibal, harpooner, that he ends up befriending and basically becoming like a brother to. The book describes this relationship quite in depth, while the movie kind of glosses over most of the important scenes to really drive home that relationship. And again, it focuses mainly on Ahab's relationship with his first, second, and third mates. And I really do enjoy those relationships, but I really feel like we're missing something, especially with Ishmael being our main character and narrator. Then you have the performances, and everyone in this film does a spectacular job. Like I said earlier, Orson Welles is amazing as Father Maple, as he's basically bellowing out this monologue about Jonah and the whale, and I absolutely love that monologue. It's probably my favorite scene in the film. But that being said, the real star of the show is Gregory Peck as Captain Ahab. Yeah, I read those reviews that said that Gregory Peck wasn't that great in this film, and I have to ask, what movie did they watch? Because Gregory Peck's amazing as Captain Ahab, and I gotta agree with Houston, who defended Gregory Peck's performance. It is spectacular for what we want out of Ahab. He manages to portray that obsession, that demeanor that Ahab has. He really becomes Captain Ahab, and I quite enjoyed what he managed to do with the role. That being said, I can see why some might say it's overdramatic, but I think it works for the film. Visually, the film for 1956 looks brilliant. Like, I am absolutely, flabbergasted by what they were able to do with this film, especially when it comes to the whaling scenes and the whale attacks. Yes, a lot of miniatures were used, but I do think that they managed to do those scenes really well, and the design of Moby Dick really feels like it came straight out of the book, with the exception of the crooked jaw, but I feel like that would have been hard to do. I have seen films that came out like a couple years later than this film, and they don't have nearly as the good visuals as this film has. I mean, take for example a film I reviewed a couple weeks ago that was from 1977, Legend of the Dinosaurs and Monster Birds. Those effects sucked in comparison to what this film managed to do. And this film came out 20 years earlier. Oh my god. And to top it all off, the music score done by Philip Satan, I probably mispronouncing that name, was really good. In fact, I'm really shocked. I looked up his IMDb. This seems to be the only film he worked on. And I have no idea how that's possible, because the score he made for this film is really well done. Like, I absolutely loved it. And honestly, I love this film in general. I definitely feel like it's a great adaptation of Moby Dick. I have seen a couple other different ones, and I don't think any of them come close to capturing the tale as well as this film did. Now, I don't know if I would recommend this to people who haven't read the book first. I do usually recommend reading the book before watching the film. And this film does have a lot of good moments, and I do love it. But I really love the book of Moby Dick, and I do have to recommend you read that before watching any adaptation of it. you'll understand once you read it that the book's a lot better than any adaptation that's going to come to the silver screen. That being said, this is a pretty damn good one, and if you're looking for a like almost like the perfect adaptation almost, I would say that this film comes pretty damn close. And I would say it's definitely worth the buy. Now, I do recommend tracking down the Blu-ray. I only have the DVD copy because that was what was available at my local store and I shop locally. You can find the Blu-ray, and from what I know, it has like a commentary, a making of, and has like the score isolated, which is great. The DVD only has the theatrical trailer, and that's just kind of fine. At the end of the day, I definitely recommend tracking down the Blu-ray. It's probably a lot better than the DVD, especially with the digital effects. So yeah. Anyway, that's my opinion on Moby Dick, 1956. What do you think about it if you've seen it? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video, like, comment, and subscribe. And next week, we take a look at Aryan. See you then.